TEDxNapaValley. We're almost home, y'all. I'm going to help land the plane. So I'm going to talk today about the election, which thankfully is over, and I think it would be hard-pressed to find somebody in here that misses the election. But you may feel like you know everything that's happened with the election, but what you may not realize is that young people pwn the election, but you might not know what pwn means, so I'll define it for you. Pwn is a verb, and it's a gamer term, and it's more or less translated as to dominate. Maybe if I give you an example, you'll get a quick sense. The cat number one is doing the pwning, and cat number two is being pwned. So I think you get the idea. So as far as the youth vote goes, for about the last year and a half, I've been focused intently on how we at MTV can use our superpowers to help young people pwn the election. And this is something we've been doing for about 20 years now. We take the responsibility really seriously. This is something that has given me a lot of dread over the last year and a half, because we entered into this cycle thinking that this was going to be a very different election than 2008, and it wasn't until we got the first research back that we really realized how different it was. And basically every way you could measure an election, we were on the other end of the spectrum. And I think the one term up here that best encapsulates this is the term election avoidance. And we saw early on that in coming into 2012, there was this feeling of disgust where young people were so tired of our politics. They felt that they were so broken. They were unwilling to put blind faith in this institution when this institution was constantly letting us down, because millennials are very pragmatic and they're very solutions-oriented, and they've been empowered through technology. And the other thing is, if you look at the last 4 years, they were responding to the fact that we have record high youth unemployment, that the cost of college is skyrocketing, and all those things were bundled up in the election, and the election became a door that young people didn't want to open. And we started to see this ratified as we went into the primary season, and we looked at the first few primaries, and we looked at all of them. The line on the top is youth vote primary turnout in 2008. On the bottom, it's 2012. The average decline here is 12 points. In a state like New Hampshire, it's 30 points. So, where you had the situation in 2008 that you're building, you're crescendoing to the election, and you're bringing young people in, and you're getting them registered, and they're really getting committed and invested in the election. In 2012, it was totally the opposite, and this created really strong headwinds for us in terms of bringing young people in and engaging them, and then ultimately turning them out. So we had to do essentially in a month or two, like after the conventions, what happened over the course of 18 months, 4 years ago. But something really amazing happened as we got towards the finish line, is that when the debate started and we got on the other side of the conventions, we really felt the energy start to build in a significant way. And then, I was still really apprehensive, given a lot of leading indicators, all the way up until the night of the election. And then about 9 or 10 o'clock, we got our first exit polling data. And I was really kind of blown away by what had happened, is that young people actually grew as a share of the electorate. So in 2008, they were 18%. In 2012, they were 19%. So 1 in 5 voters is voters 18 to 29 years old. And where we were bracing for turnout of maybe 42, 43%, turnout was essentially unchanged. Young people were 50% of the electorate, where they were, 50% of eligible young voters turned out versus 51 4 years ago. This is the fourth highest turnout ever. The highest turnout ever was 55% in 1972 when 18-year-olds got the right to vote. So just to give you some context. So it's great that a lot of young people turned out, but did it matter? And thankfully, it really did matter, and we can look at a few key states. You can look at Ohio, Florida, Virginia, and you include Pennsylvania in here, and you're talking about 80 electoral votes. And each of these 3 states was decided by about 100,000 votes. And you can see the split where, like in Ohio, Obama got 62 to Romney's 35 in the 18 to 29-year-old set. If you take these 3 states in Pennsylvania and you split the youth vote 50-50, Governor Romney is President Romney. So this is an example of how young people really mobilized and were so focused on being a part of determining the outcome of this election. And this is an example. Regardless of your politics, this is really important, because if you vote twice, you'll vote for the rest of your lives, the rest of your life. And we have a lot of young people now who voted when they were 18, voted again when they were 22, and I feel very confident, given what I know about millennials, that they are going to be informed and active members of our civil society for the rest of their lives. So that's a little bit about that, and I can say definitively that yes, the election was pwned by young voters. So we got that behind us. So now I want to focus a little bit on the ways that MTV worked to connect young voters to the process this past year, and I want to talk about some things that worked and some things that didn't. And one of the things that worked really well was funny. And time again, we see studies that show that funny stuff is the most shared stuff on the web. So if you do it right and you roll it out, this is stuff that travels really well. And we stumbled onto an early example of success with this when we launched a franchise called Rapper Republican. And the idea here was to take quotes and then have two people that you would typically not see in the same sentence and have to guess who said it. And our first one was with Kanye West and Newt Gingrich. And, it was quotes like, "I'm going down as a legend, whether or not you like me or not." And there's this whole series. It's actually really hard. People get these wrong all the time. So this was one of the first ones. It was followed shortly thereafter by Lil Wayne and Ron Paul. Let's just get rid of all the drug laws. Again, could go either way. We had Drake and Mitt Romney. And so we continued to do these for a while. They were really just blowing up and traveling all over the place. Again, MTV is nonpartisan. We are equal opportunity. So as the Republican primary started to wind down, we introduced a new series called Democrat or Diva. So we gave the same treatment to the Democratic Party, and everybody from Obama versus Gaga, Pelosi and Pink. My favorite of the whole season was Joe Biden and Mariah Carey, which, again, you just be totally shocked to see what's come out of both of their mouths, and you put it together. And this actually generated my favorite tweet of the last election season, which was from Mariah Carey, where she responded to the quiz that we tweeted at her, and she said, "Laugh out loud, I can't even know what to say," which I don't think is technically English, but it's. I just got a tremendous amount of joy out of this. So. We did another video in partnership with Funny or Die with the Jersey Shore cast, and the concept was Jersey Shore cast argues over extremely complicated political issues. And it was them sitting around the couch. I was actually there for the shoot. I was watching it all happen, and they're fighting about gerrymandering and the role of the Monroe Doctrine and campaign finance reform. When we launched this video, it drove the highest spike in voter registrations to that point in the campaign. And then this other one I want to share with you is really great. So we partnered with this young man from the University of Tennessee. He's 19 years old, and he makes these videos. He goes by the name Stubbs, and the video that we created is one of a couple, has generated already over 33 million streams, and we should take a look at it.
I love you back. My true wish in the well, don't ask me, I'll never tell. I look to you as it felt, and now you're in my way. I trade my soul for a wish, pennies and dimes for a kiss. I wasn't looking for this, but now you're in my way. Your stare was holding grip, Gina's skin was showing. Hot night, wind was blowing. Where do you think you're going, baby? Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. But here's my number, so call me maybe. It's hard to look right at you, baby. But here's my number, so call me maybe. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. But here's my number, so call me maybe. And all the other boys try to chase me, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
We did another one of these with he and Romney singing a duet. It was Miley Ray Cyrus' Party in the USA, and it worked. Something that didn't work as well was informative stuff. So this is kind of a challenge. And we really take seriously as part of the campaign breaking down complicated issues and subjects and making them more accessible. Because part of what we do really well is to kind of simplify the election and make it a lower barrier to entry, to get in and understand the issues and getting registered to vote and all that. And so we developed this series of infographics with Good Magazine, 8 infographics on really gnarly kind of key issues that impact young voters, some of the issues that they were most passionate about. And we develop them all, we roll them out over the course of a couple months, and I only went and saw the final results last week and was compiling the data, and I'm like, okay, so how did it do? Unfortunately, when we did all these, the sum of all the page views for the series was less than 2 stories that we ran on MTV News. One was about fan reaction to President Obama singing an Al Green song, and then you add that to another story we did on Beyonce joining Instagram, and the fact that she was wearing an Obama t-shirt, and like those 2 pieces of content did more page views than all of the infographics, which is kind of depressing, but I mean, it is what it is. So that's one example. Another one is we created these candidate profiles in partnership with CNN. So we're like breaking down like who the candidates are and where they stand on the issues. And we launched these around the Iowa caucuses, and so we did it over the whole year. Just went in, added it up. All of the page views to all of the candidate profiles over the whole year are less than 1 story on Jay-Z and President Obama, a bromance history. So, yeah, this is something that you need to deal with and respond to, and we struggle with it all the time. Like when you're engaging young people on social issues, I mean, we call it the vegetable and pizza conundrum. So it's like if you just hand out like a stalk of broccoli, like, they're probably not going to take it. But if you can put broccoli on a slice of pizza and maybe like hide it under a slice of pepperoni or something, like there's a much better chance that it's going to be consumed. And so, I mean, this is something that everybody needs to think about, like if you're engaging young people in whatever way on issues. And that's no diss on young people, that's all people. I mean, we are all really, we have a lot of things competing for our time and for our clicks. So that's something people need to think about, consider. Another thing that really worked well is visual media. So as Instagram and Tumblr and Pinterest are really ascendant and becoming the places where people spend a lot more time on the web, visual media is kind of taking over the web. It's becoming much more image-centric. And we did a series of visual stuff that really worked. One example was a series of animated GIFs that we created for National Voter Registration Day. And so we worked with like 12 really amazing animated GIF artists, and they developed this new work and pushed it out to their followers. They have a lot of followers collectively. So we did that. We also had a takeover on MTV channels for the day. And it just went crazy. It was just wildfire. And there's stuff like this, don't be a lazy monster, get up and register to vote. Like America more than just a friend, register. Nothing affects your future like voting, except a time machine, of course. Make it rain, ballots, register to vote. So, this is not brain surgery. This is just like funny little bite-sized pieces of content. So we pushed this out over the course of a day, and in that time frame, we registered 10,000 young people to vote in like this just little targeted burst of energy, because this stuff was getting in their feeds, they were clicking on it, and they were going to register to vote. It was that simple prompt. And this was a really powerful takeaway for us, and this is something we want to continue to do a lot more with. Another example is we did a series called Power Picks, where we were asking young people to upload a photo and caption it with how they were going to use their power in the 2012 elections. And we got a lot of great stuff back. So from, I'm going to use my power for affordable education. I'm going to use my power for jobs. I'm going to use my power to help determine the control of the Supreme Court, the composition of the Supreme Court. JWoww did not want to see her right to GTL be tread upon. That's how she was going to use her power. And even this Yahoo who slipped through here somehow. I don't know, we need better filtering. But others just like, this did really well. And we had over 250,000 votes where people were responding to these and voting them up or down. And it was really amplifying our audience's voice in a new way, in a very contemporary way. So visual worked really well. Last thing I want to talk about is gaming. So given that we're talking about pwning, we tried something with gaming, with gamification, this last cycle, and we essentially set out to put a game layer on top of the whole election. And that game was called Fantasy Election. And so this was kind of taking a page out of the fantasy football playbook, which is massively popular. There's 35 million Americans play fantasy sports now. And the idea was, what if instead of drafting a team of football players and tallying up their points at the end of the week and how many touchdowns did they score and how many interceptions did they throw, what about if you drafted a team of candidates who are running for office, for the presidency, for the Senate, and the House, and you earn points based on how they behaved on the campaign trail? But what we were measuring were values. So you get points when you tell the truth, and you lose points when you're uncivil. So we had all these data partners, like 15 data partners feeding us data. It was unprecedented. Like, never been something quite like this before. And we're glad that we experimented with it. We tried some new stuff. It didn't achieve the numbers that we were hoping for. Ultimately, about 20,000 people signed up to play this game. And at MTV, we try to do everything big. So I could say, frankly, we wanted to have more people participate. And that was a little bit of a bummer. And we're going to continue to work on figuring out how we can ramp that up and scale it. But along the way, we introduced this piece that doesn't exist in regular fantasy sports called bonus points. And the idea was that you could earn bonus points for your actions in the 2012 elections, because it's really important what the candidates do. In many ways, it's more important what you do. And so we created this whole series of ways that you could earn bonus points for doing things that would be healthy civic behavior. And those were things like watching election-related programming. So we had a partnership with an organization called GetGlue, and you can check into programs. Like I checked into the final debate, and I got a sticker for it. And you can read content about the race from BuzzFeed Politics and Politico and other sites. And every piece of content had a little button on it you could click and then get those points in fantasy election. And also a partnership with Foursquare, so you could check into real-world political events, including on November 6th when you check into the voting booth. So we do this. It was kind of a lark. We just introduced it because it'll give people something else to do. And then it absolutely blows up. And in the course of 2 months, 20,000 people take 500,000 actions. And I mean, we've never seen engagement like this before. We did another game that was played 2 million times, and people only took 50,000 actions connected to that. So this was like a real breakthrough. And now we want to figure out how do we take this and apply it to all of our other social campaigns, including what we're doing on sexual health and on college completion and a campaign that we have on human trafficking. How can we gamify positive engagement and participation on these big challenges that we face? So that's something that was really encouraging to find. And the other thing I'd say is, just with everything I've just shared, these don't just apply to engaging millennials on politics. They apply to just engaging millennials in general. These are some lessons that you can hopefully take back and use in whatever way if you're engaging young people in that regard. So in closing, I just want to share a video with you that I'm really proud of, that we made early in the campaign to really help mobilize young voters and to hold a mirror up to their power. And I think it does a good job of encapsulating a lot of the key issues at play in this election, the stakes involved, and also the power and the potential of the millennial generation, which is the largest generation in history. So let's check this out. All right, that's it. Plane landed safely. You guys been awesome. Thank you.